Ethan's
Um,
late. Come on, Ethan.
um, all right, let's just start with the easy one. Um, Overall top takeaways from week one.
Um, my top takeaways, I think, for the weekend were one, I think we have a complete staff. I think that we put our pitchers in all different situations. I think they handled it really well. Our defense played really well behind them. I think that we have a lot of fight in this team. Um, and it was really great to see that just kind of in a situation where our backs were against the wall and we fought with one strike left. So um, I was pleased overall. I think we have an explosive offense. I think that we didn't necessarily click consistently through the weekend, but it's weekend one. And so I liked what I saw on in all facets of the game. We have a lot of work
Obviously,
to do, but I like what I saw.
obviously, you'd love to not be in that situation of being down to your last strike, but considering you were and how your team responded, then you can't get any more backs against the wall. Um, did that surprise you? What impressed you about that?
Did it surprise me being in that situation, or did it surprise me of the fight?
The response, the fight.
Um, I can't say it surprised me. Obviously, you just never know what your team's going to do until you're in that situation in a real game. We try to put them in situations where there's a lot of pressure and they have to come through for their team, or they have to control their emotions. They have to control their heart rate. They have to stay within themselves. But until you're in a real game and you're in that situation, you don't know how they're going to handle it. And so um, I can't say I'm surprised, but I just really was happy to see the collective fight in the team of just not giving in. Really pleased with it.
And last one for me, just I think you briefly mentioned the pitching initially. What stood out to you the most from the staff as a whole? Just what stood out to you the most? I know the pitching's your happy place, so tell me what made you the happiest.
Um, I think that we put him in different situations. I think Robin Heron looked really good. She's, only been back about a week coming back from getting her tonsils out, so I don't think she had the stamina as much, but her stuff looked good. We put Cam Harrison in some really high leverage situations. She was ready for that moment. Peyton Burnham pitched really efficiently and did a really great job. Lexi King came in some big moments, did a really great job. And then Reese, we kind of joked about it because it kind of felt like every time she was in or was going in, we the score was bigger, and that's not by design. She's been pitching really, really well. But I thought that she all her hard work that she's put in um showed this weekend too. So I just thought our pitchers were in different situations. They complemented each other really well. And even in the little things that kind of, um, either equated in a run or in pressure situations, it was self-inflicted. And so I think that's the big thing, when you're playing at a place like Texas State with short fences and wind. It's nice to see that. I'm not even sure we gave up a deep fly ball on the weekend. So just the kind of contacts we were giving up, the way the defense played behind them, the way they fed their defense, I just thought it was a very seasoned weekend for a young staff.
Coach, I'm up here in Northeast Arkansas, so I had to ask you about Ava Carter. Just what were your impressions of her from her opening weekend?
She did exactly what she's done. She was so excited she saw her name in the lineup and the game two, right? And her smile was bigger than mine. It was just like, oh my gosh, it was like, have a day, Ava. And it was not and why she was in there. It's like no, there's not a moment too big. There's not pressure. She plays so loose. She plays just with a really big belief, and just you can tell that she just goes out there and does what she does. And it was no different this weekend. She did an incredible job. Just really pleased to see her embrace that moment and make the most of it.
Well, obviously you got Kaylee. You played her in multiple positions. That was always what I was intrigued about. Just take me through the thought process on deciding not only where to, hit her, but more importantly, what position to play her.
Well, I mean, we got to talk about it last week. Me and you, Eric, of just kind of, how versatile she is and just the amount of belief we have in her and confidence we have in her in any position. Um, it it's off the charts. So she started in right field. She caught 2 games for us. She's a really great receiver. She works really well with our pitchers. So it's just really nice to offset that load with Kennedy Miller and keep them both in the lineup, offensive lineup. But uh, yeah, it was a no-brainer for us to put her in the 2 hole. Um, I mean, obviously, when our backs were against the wall and we, are down to our last stride and Kaylee Wyckoff's in the box, you feel pretty confident that there's something good's going to happen. And so I think that's a snapshot of who Kaylee Wyckoff is she's calm, cool, collected. She'll do anything she can and needs to for the team. And that's who she is. So in that moment, it's just like, man, she had one of the most just seasoned, confident at bats, never got too big, just found a way to drive the ball. But yeah, I mean, that's a long answer to say, we have so much confidence in her in the outfield. If we needed to put her in the DP spot, which we didn't because we wanted to use her defensively behind the plate, it's just been a really nice tool to be able to use more moving pieces and then just kind of offset that load for everyone.
Was there any catcher pitcher combination that stood out to you that you tried that last weekend that you're like, ooh, that they really had good chemistry there, or was it pretty much everybody worked well together and pretty balanced?
I think everyone worked really well together and pretty balanced. I think that there's certain matchups we're trying to figure out if that's going to be better, but nothing necessarily stood out. Um, and so I think we're confident with any matchup and that we need to, and it's going to be really nice to be able to do more of the matchup, use more of the matchup off who we're playing rather than who we're utilizing within our team.
You now obviously got La Tech, you got Monroe. Just take us through the this week's and the opponents and the thought, and how this kind of came about. Because you're going to places this year that I don't remember you going to very often. So my memory may not be working very well, so I might be wrong on that. But just take us through that process this week.
No, well, yeah, we opened up at Texas State, which is a tournament we've been tracking for a while, and just it's a great place to play. They have an incredible environment, and it's just we have so many Texas players. I think we had when we played Texas State. I think a third of the stands were our fans there for our players. So it was really cool to just kind of a homecoming for a lot of our Texas players. So that was part of it for sure. And the fact that they just run a top-notch tournament. And they did that. La Tech, we are looking for a place to drive. We know Josh really well. Obviously getting to go down there and see their new-ish stadium now, and get to play there was a big deal. And then obviously going to Mary Nutter was just kind of getting out to California, which is offset by the drive to La Tech. So we're looking forward to this weekend. Obviously La Tech opened up at PV and had a really tough schedule, pulled out a big win off of Oklahoma State. And so, we have a ton of respect for Josh and what he does and what he's always done and how he coaches his team, how he prepares his teams. They always have a ton of fight. And Chelsea does a really great job with their pitching. So we already knew that was going to be a huge matchup. And then seeing them, of how they competed in opening weekend, I don't think their record's necessarily indicative of the team that they are. And so we know that's going to be a big one. ULM put some numbers up offensively this weekend. I mean, I watched a couple of those, the 2 Houston games of felt more like a football game a little bit on both sides with those scores. But I think that's the big thing when you look at ULM is I don't think they ever think they're out of it with the offense that they have, and the runs that they can produce. And then Southern Miss too. Natalie does a great job, and so it's a tournament that is going to challenge us in different ways than this past weekend. And that's by design. It's just continue to challenge our team and get them prepared for the long haul.
Hey, Coach.
Eric, oh,
You
sorry.
talked.
I'm going to ask Eric a question. Eric, how did you feel about our lineups? I know you've been
I was
wondering
intrigued.
how we were
Yeah.
going to use everybody. So I'm going to put the question on you of how did you feel like we used everybody?
I thought it was really good. I enjoyed
Where
it.
can we be better, Eric?
Well, I
What do
don't
we need
know.
to do?
I think it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I liked the white coffee too. That's why I was curious. That was good. I like that.
You'd probably like the Wyckoff in any spot in the lineup.
That's fair. That's fair. But she gets
He's
a
an
lot of
elite hitter.
opportunities in that two spot. I think she hit actually in the two spot at Texas Tech. So I think I don't know if that
Yeah,
was
I
part of
think
it or
she
not.
hit a lot in the two. I think she hit a little bit of leadoff for him. I think she hit a little bit of four hole. Yeah, but she looked pretty comfortable in two.
Do you? I mean, I'll do a quick follow up and then everybody else could go.
No,
Do you?
this was your question, Eric, not my question.
Well,
This was
I
your
mean, I'm
question.
curious. Do players sometimes do they tell you, "Hey, I like comfortable at a certain spot"? Is that ever discussed?
No, no, not really. I mean, I was curious. I was curious. I did a lot of looking, in the last couple weeks at just kind of where Kaylee kind of fell in their lineup and where she had a lot of the success. But when you have a hitter like Kaylee, she has success in anywhere you put her in the lineup. And she's also the kind of player that would just say, I'll be, I'm best wherever you want to put me, coach, so yeah, but I think you always try to look at that, early. And when we had Reagan Johnson, it's just like, well, Reagan Johnson's used to being in the leadoff spot, and it's, so you always kind of want to have a level of comfort, but, and confidence more than anything. But I think, we're pretty fortunate that these players just are going to be, they're just wherever you want to put me, coach, I'm good. So,
Hey, Coach. You mentioned how explosive your guys' offense was. What's the key to finding some of that consistency you also mentioned, or was that just a weekend one kind of getting your guys' legs under you type of thing?
I think you always seek consistency in anything that we do. And I think that offense is one of the hardest places to have that because there's so many contributing factors and moving pieces. And so I think that, more than anything, we want to have consistency with our approach, consistency with, all of those things. And I think that we were close, but not quite there. And so those are more of the things. I think we have all the tools. I think that we have, yeah, I think we have all the tools. I think we have, a really, really deep squad that we can utilize in a lot of different matchups. And so I think it's just the consistency and approach. I think it's tough sometimes, even, as I hate even saying this, but I like even talk to my dad, who's a retired baseball coach, and I'm like, dang, like how do we have 23 and then the next game it's like we're trying to like claw for runs. He's like, it always works that way. It's like you like unload and then sometimes it feels like you're kind of grasping a little bit. And so at the end of the day, I don't want to nitpick how this team found a way to win five times and it all looked different. I think winning is hard, and as we saw across the country, it continues to get harder. And we found ourselves in a situation that a lot of teams did across the country. As your back's against the wall, you're in a 0-0 game, or you're in a 1-0 game, you're down in the seventh, or you're in extra innings, and finding a way to win when you have one strike left. I mean, that tells me more about this team than anything else. And so I'm just really pleased with the weekend. We'll continue to work. There's more of those consistency with our approach things that we need to hit. Consistency with being more on the aggressor, those type of things. But those are all things we can fix. If we were a team that didn't fight, that'd be a lot harder to fix.
And then you were so complimentary, obviously, of Ella preseason. Just how impressed were you with her in weekend one?
Oh, I'm impressed with her every day I get to be around her. And this weekend was no different. She played third, she played short for us. She hit in the 3-hole every game. she's just so, speaking of consistency, she's so consistently Ella. And I think that that's a lot to take on sometimes, or to ask a freshman to do. And there's just so many that rely on her, and for the spark or who she is already as a freshman, it's one of the biggest compliments I can give her, is that her teammates rely on her already as a freshman. And so we got to see that play out, and play big. I think there's still some things that we have to get her a little bit more aggressive with, but I think that, coming out of the weekend, with the weekend that she had, I'm just really proud of her. It's always interesting when you're playing weekend one or day one and weekend one, and then even more when you're playing as kind of a homecoming. And we had a lot of players playing at homecoming. So it was like there was a lot of fans, a lot of family. There's a lot of added things. And I think our team handled it pretty well. And I thought Ella handled it really well. So I'm just excited to see where she goes from here.
And then last one for me, Bree obviously was phenomenal. Are you surprised at this point ever when she performs like she did, and just, how pleased obviously were you with the way she came out in the week?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm more surprised when she doesn't, because I literally think Bree's going to get a hit every time she steps in the box. And so no, I'm not surprised. She's an elite player. She's an elite offensive player and defensive player. I think she's an underrated defensive player. But I just really happy for her. She's put a lot of work in, and she's playing really confidently, swinging really confidently right now. And no, not surprised at all.
Are we going into a cold or coming out of a cold?
Oh, coming out of it. My goodness, the Deifel family has been hit with the flu bug. We have had it for 2.5 weeks now, I'm pretty sure. Walt and then Trip, I had it through this weekend, so hopefully I didn't give it to any of our players. Joe got it 2 nights ago. So we need it out of here, Brett. We need it out of here, please.
Okay, well, I'm assuming the other Courtney didn't have the flu. Your thoughts on what she was able to do while not, really not playing much in the fall? It seems like a great story.
She actually did have the flu. That's the
Oh,
funny thing. Yeah, she was supposed to do media today and she has no voice. So we kind of got hit the same time, Courtney and I. And she's gotten it a little bit worse than me. But it was, you know, we kind of laughed. She's like, oh, like Bree the other day at practice last week, she had a day where she was sick and she just went off. We like literally couldn't get her out. It's like everyone talks about that, having that sick game, or, the MJ game or whatever. But, Court didn't feel all that good this weekend. And sometimes when you don't feel well, you just let your body, play and react and do all those things. So she had a great weekend. It was nice to see her get back into it. It was nice to see her let the game come back to her. There's a lot of times where you can really force it or press, and she didn't do that. She's been really, really mature through this whole process, and this weekend was no different. And coming out of this weekend, as we kind of work her through really not feeling well and trying to get her strength back, she's just been really, really great in her approach to that. But no, Courtney and I were the ones that got hit the worst, I think, this weekend.
You're gonna have to fumigate those softball offices and locker rooms and everything.
Oh my gosh, fumigate the Deifel house for sure. I don't know where. Oh my goodness.
Hey, Courtney, I have one real quick. We all like to talk about like the end of the game with Kaylee and Bree getting those hits to tie and win the game, but just the start of that last inning, what did you think of? Reagan came in a pinch hit situation. Carly lays down a perfect bunt. Just your execution. Just to get to those situations where you had a chance to tie and win the game.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that we wanted to celebrate more than anything, is the collective effort that you can't score if you don't get someone on, and so it's how are you going to start that inning? And putting Reagan Kramer in that situation, we knew we were going to get a mature at bat. We knew that we were going to get an at bat where she was going to make them earn anything that they got, and then she was going to take advantage of anything they gave her. And it was a huge at bat to start the inning. Then we put Riley in, and Riley got her bunt down of just doing the little things right, the fundamentals that manufacture runs and put you in the best position. To have a chance to get back in the game. Spencer Prigge came in and had a great at bat with a 2-strike count pretty early, and then drawing the walk. So there was just so many things that contributed to having, giving Kaylee that moment to hit them in. And it was huge. It was huge. And it all started with Jimmy. And so it was big time.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get the names wrong. I said Carly, didn't I? But it was Riley.
I just want to make sure Riley gets her props. That was huge.
Yeah, it was. And last thing is that it seemed like this year, at least from the first few games, y'all might be trying to, I don't know, like be more aggressive on the bases. Like Carly had a couple steals. Is that part of the offense this year that y'all are trying to, be more opportunistic on stealing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always try to. Sometimes we have the personnel to do it a little bit more, and sometimes we don't. I think we have, the players that can take advantage of those type of things, balls in the dirt or anything that, you can kind of move up 60 or take an extra 60 whenever they give it. And so, yeah, absolutely. Some of it is on our side. Some of it's in matchups of what they give up. And so just making sure we can take advantage of moving up 60 whenever we have the chance.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks, Ethan.
I have more thoughts on your question. If you about your lineup, Ella, you put her in between Kaylee and Bree, which I thought was really creative there for a freshman to kind of put her in the middle with the two veterans, maybe get to see some pitches. Was that by design, putting her in between the two vets?
Sure. I mean, a little bit. Also, she's just a freaking talented hitter. And so when you look at a number of things, you look at opportunities, right? How many times we can get that top up to the plate. You look at certain situations the 3-hole typically hits in. And so there's a number of contributing factors to that, but the biggest one is that she's a great hitter. She's a really, really great hitter, and so we want her in that 3-hole.
This is where the deep lineup potential that you have. When you have a pitchers that can hit, how do you evaluate as far as them being able to hit in the lineup? Are you one? I know some coaches say, "Hey, let's worry about pitching first, then we'll hit." Maybe separate it. What's your philosophy on that and fitting them into a lineup if you can?
Well, I think that they're pitchers that are hitters. So it's not, like I think that's the thing. If we work into a spot where it feels like the hitting's starting to take away from their pitching, maybe we relook at that, but it's not. That's not who they are. It's not who they've been. And so it's looking at who are we wanting to pitch? And then what's our best 9 of all the players that we can look at? And the way that Cam and Peyton swing it, they have to be in that conversation to be in the lineup. And so sometimes it's going to be matchup of who we're facing, what the other pitcher does well against certain type of hitters, what our hitters do well off certain kind of pitching. And so it's just putting the best 9 in the lineup, or giving us the chance to put them in if we need to in certain situations. So linking them to the right people. And so it's still work in progress. If it gets to the point where it starts to take away from their pitching, then we'll look at it, but it hasn't yet. And I don't foresee that happening with these players.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks,
you
guys. Thank you.
I'll have Ella McDowell going tomorrow at approximately